Hello, U.S. history students. I would like to discuss to you today one of the final clashes, well, probably the final clash in between the Native Americans and the United States in what's called the Massacre at Wounded Knee. I just thought it was kind of fitting to close down the project with this topic. Okay, so we are near the end of the project. This has been a long one, talking about manifest destiny and this idea of intent and impact. We looked at all different groups. We looked at Black people, American Indians, immigrants like the Chinese. We looked at women. And now we're getting to the end, and you're working on final products. You worked on this compare and contrast impacts and intersectionality, which is actually going to go in with this one final product. And I'm doing a little bit of rearranging. I'm going to take out this one checkpoint, so you're not going to see this. But what you're going to work on this week is this one, rough draft of your evidence-based explanation of westward expansion today. So that'll fit in here with this final product. And then I'm going to explain later on about this PSA because I'm changing what Summit has in there. So I'll get back to you on that. But so let's talk about my lesson that I'm giving you about Wounded Knee. Okay, so I like to start with this quote here. They made us many promises, more than I can remember, but they never kept but one. They promised to take our land, and they took it. And that was by Red Cloud. He was the Oglala leader, and doesn't that really ring true? I mean, isn't that what the United States did to the Native Americans? They kept making many promises or treaties, and then they just kind of think back to when we talked about the Trail of Tears and how they kept making treaties and pushing them off their land and really killing many of them. Many of them died. I mean, ever since Columbus came over, I mean, they have been dying. So, yeah, it's sort of a sad ending what happened. It's a dark period in our history. Okay, so in this project, we studied how women, immigrants, Blacks, and Native Americans were impacted by America's westward expansion. In this lesson and in your final product, you will examine a current issue facing Native Americans today as a result of westward expansion, and that's going to relate also into your PSA that we're going to look at. First, we will look back at the final clash between the Native Americans and the United States was something that took place at Wounded Knee. So that's the focus for this lesson. You're going to look at this final clash, and pretty much this was the last stand for the Native Americans, and then after this, it was just kind of done. They just stopped fighting back. I mean, they were defeated after this. Their numbers were so low, and they just didn't have the same power that the United States government had. So you're going to see the sad event that takes place. I have readings for you, videos, flashcards, and you have to write your explanation here, take a multiple choice quiz. And then now we are wrapping up, what had happened in the past. Now we're going to look at current events today. So you're going to use what you learned here now and now move forward to complete this checkpoint. Rough draft of your evidence-based explanation of westward expansion today. Okay, so you are going to look at events that are happening today and connect them back to westward expansion and the historical decisions made in that time period. So in other words, we are still feeling the impact of westward expansion today. So when you go into this checkpoint, you're going to want to look at these two resources to help you. So here's the bank of ideas. So you want to see how westward expansion is still impacting us and the long-term impacts that have continued. And here are some different topics, different ideas to get you started. You may want to look at the railroads. You may want to look at Mexican Americans, Chinese Americans, women's voting rights, American Indians, and the Keystone Pipeline. But these are just some ideas. If there's something outside this you want to work on, that's fine too. Let's just pick on this one, for example. So this one here, why trains are so important to the American economy. And this goes back to, remember the Transcontinental Railroad and how that helped to settle the West. So you're just tying in what you learned from the past to today. And then you will use this to help you. Here's the goals. This may look confusing, but this is really all you want to know, okay? And writing this evidence-based explanation, we have two main goals. For our reader to be able to understand clearly how a topic today is related to the historical decision of westward expansion, okay? So for maybe, like, say you're talking about that Keystone Pipeline that the Native Americans want to try to stop being put in their tribal lands. So you want to show how that relates to westward expansion that we studied in the past. And then number 2, for our writing to be centered in evidence. We're always talking about evidence, either through quotes or paraphrase information. So paraphrase means you take information you read from a source, but you kind of put it in your own words, but you still have to cite it. So part 1 is comparing the past and the present. So an element, theme, or similarity from the inquiry or historical impact. And then, so this is from the past, and then how it's still the same or similar, and it's happening today with which impact or which the topic, I mean, that you picked today. And then here you're just looking at where you're going to get your evidence. And here's your links where you got them from. And then you're going to write, this is all comes down to writing a paragraph. Okay, so you're just writing a paragraph on the issue you chose here from the resource bank. And you're going to, once you do it, you're going to put it here. Okay, so, and it says after implementing the feedback given to you by your peers. Obviously, we're not doing that. You're doing this individually. But you could always get, a parent or a guardian to look over it for you. Okay, but this is where you're going to put your evidence-based explanation of whatever topic you chose. Let's go back to that. So it's up to you which topic, which group you want to choose. Okay, but really you're talking about how westward expansion is still impacting us today through one of these. Okay, that's what you're doing. Okay, how is this topic related to westward expansion and what we studied in history? Okay, so if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me, and I will be getting back to you with more detailed instructions on the Instagram style PSA that I'm going to be changing up. Okay, you have a wonderful week.